Welcome to Bank on Her. I'm Mackenzie Conklin, and I teach you how to make confidence a strength in and out of your business so you can build self-made wealth and unrealistic success on your terms. I've gone from defeatingly low self-worth to a multiple six-figure entrepreneur by learning how to bank on myself, and I believe you can do it too. Listen to find out how. For podcast listeners, just listen in. For YouTube watchers, let me explain. So last week, I basically had said that my dad is like Kris Jenner, and he's my dadager, and he wants me to get on YouTube. And so last week I recorded on Zoom. I have a backup Zoom recording going, but the quality of Zoom recordings are not that cute. So I have it going on my phone. I really want to get it so I can record on my iPhone's back camera, but I'm just not there yet. So I need to look at myself. So that's what we're doing right now. It's all set up. I have two cameras looking at me. I have my podcast recording. I hope this works. But today, let's just dive right in. Today, what I really want to talk about is consistency, but really what it is a bigger conversation around feeling that wherever you are or whoever you are or however you are is enough as is. And so something that's been coming up for me is if you've followed me for more than 2 minutes, you probably know that I have depression, I have anxiety. Sometimes it's worse than other times. And I'm just in this cute little season right now where my anxiety is really high. I'm also realizing that I drink over a whole pot of coffee every day. And so maybe they're correlated. And so today I've only had 1 cup. You'll see I'm still very high energy. So let's just see how this goes. But the reason I want to talk about this is because, gosh, the trolley is going by. No matter how noise canceling of a microphone or a podcast or software I get, it cannot seem to get out the trolley. So it just went by and my window's open. So I'm making it worse. But I wanted to bring this up and talk about this idea of, am I consistent enough? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Right? Is because we often think that if we have anxiety, if we have depression, if we're experiencing something that's just a little unsavory, such as today's focus, inconsistency, it means we can't get where we want to go. But something that I'm really big into, especially right now in a high anxiety season, is that it doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean that I can't succeed. It doesn't mean that I can't hit my goals. It doesn't mean that I'm not confident. It really doesn't mean anything, except that maybe I'm just drinking too much coffee. So today's focus is consistency. But if you're someone who already is consistent, or you don't struggle with the thoughts of, I feel like I'm not consistent enough, or I feel like if I were more consistent, I'd be further, or any of those thoughts, just fill it in with whatever you're feeling, whether it's smart enough, pretty enough, good enough at marketing, good enough at selling, charismatic enough, whatever it is, you fill it in with your thing, because we'll solve it today. So wherever I say consistency, just fill it in with your words. But what I want to talk about today is the idea of consistency, how important it is. What are my thoughts on it? Do you need to be consistent to be a successful entrepreneur? And my answer is no. So let's dive in. I just want you to know going into this, nothing about me is consistent. I am not a consistent person. I have what my friends, I would say my dad, my boyfriend, and just people in my life say is that I have a spaghetti brain. And so if you ask me where I want to go for dinner, all of a sudden I'm going to be telling you something my roommate told me 2 months ago about this one place that is totally unrelated to where I want to go to dinner. And it's because there is just so much going on in my brain. I've got big thoughts. I've got big emotions. And I've heard more than I can count on one hand where women think their big thoughts, their big emotions, their sporadicness, their chaos, their inconsistency means that they can't succeed. And that's just not true. So for me, I'm someone who's constantly distracted, always fidgeting, can come up with 45 other things that don't necessarily make me consistent, but it's not a problem. It's not a problem. And so it hasn't come up this most recent round of Unlimited, but I remember last round of Unlimited, a lot of my clients brought up the idea of being consistent. And oh gosh, it looks like my phone is overheating already and it won't record this whole thing, but we'll try. Anyway, I talk with my clients a lot about consistency, and they like to bring it up as an attribute as to why they're maybe not getting results. And I'll even say my last launch in towards the end of 2022 for Unlimited, I remember there were so many sales calls where women were like, "Well, I'm just not consistent, and maybe if I work more consistent enough, I can get the results that I want." And we're going to cover that today, because if consistency was really the thing that was holding you back, or if even bettering your marketing skills were the thing that was holding you back, all of these things, you would have just solved it by now if that's what was really going on. And so we're going to cover that today. But usually, if you're feeling not enough, not consistent enough, not smart enough, not good enough at something, the bigger problem is not that you are lacking anything. The bigger problem is you're using it to shame yourself. You're using it as rationale as to why you should, quote unquote, should have better results. Even if it's a better body, more income or inquiries, you should be further by now, your skills should be better, your success should be better, whatever. You're just using it to shame yourself. And so inconsistency, or a lack of really anything, is not a problem unless you're using it to shame yourself. Inconsistency is not a problem unless you're using it as a tool to shame yourself. The only thing that's actually a problem is that you're shaming yourself. And I get why, when it comes to consistency or skills or anything that we've been told we, quote unquote, should be, why we shame ourselves. And it's because most logic, most advice, and society will say consistency gets results, or you have to be really good at this to get results. And while they're not wrong, those things are helpful. You can definitely get results no matter who you are, no matter how you are, without needing to change yourself. The lack of skills, the lack of education, the lack of experience, the lack of anything doesn't mean a lack of results. And again, I'm going to make it an even bigger conversation than just consistency. A perceived, quote unquote, lack in yourself doesn't mean you'll have a lack of success. It doesn't mean you'll have a lack of success. So when I get frequent women coming and chatting to me about they're just not that consistent, they're not that consistent. If I were more consistent, things would be different, right? The suggested solution, as I mentioned, is usually just to be more consistent. We think if we just set aside time every day, we'll use it to be consistent. Or if we have time management skills and processes in place, that'll help with consistency, which maybe. Or, I'm just lacking discipline. I'm just not good enough. I'm just not consistent. And so maybe if I was just consistent, maybe if I just had discipline, maybe if I just did this, X, Y, Z, I'll be consistent and get results. But it doesn't work, and it almost never does. It almost never works like that. Because like I said, if you could be consistent with that action, whether it be working out daily, meditating, taking action towards your goals, marketing your products and services more often, doing the things you know will lead to success, you'd already be doing them by now. The lack of action isn't a problem, but the lack of action is actually being caused by thoughts and feelings you're having. So we often think inconsistency is the problem itself, but really it's the thoughts and feelings that are producing inconsistency that becomes the problem. And so I was talking to a client the other day about how she struggles to actually execute in other areas, a lot of areas of her life. And she wanted to come up with these time management plans for moving forward. And I know her well, so I sniffed this out. She didn't need time management. She's very good at what she does. It's very rare that when women come to me, it's a consistency problem, it's a time management problem, it's a lack of skills problem. The other big one I hear all the time is, I just need to learn how to market better. Those are very rarely actually the problem going on. They're usually just fancy cover-ups for women experiencing uncomfortable thoughts that are causing them to procrastinate, avoid, put things off, and so on. And I'll also add this little flavor to the conversation, is that I most definitely have undiagnosed ADHD. I feel like every other week my therapist says to go get diagnosed. Any symptom you name with ADHD, I probably have, which often leads me to be outright terrible with time management and consistency. But I have the thoughts that I never needed consistency or time management to be successful. They might help, but it's not really at play. That's not what's going on here. I find with myself and with my clients, the more unsupportive, anxiety fueling thoughts that I have, the more scattered I am and the more inconsistent I might get. But time management isn't what's actually at play here. It's not what will solve it either. I need to solve for the unsupportive, anxiety fueling thoughts or whatever your flavor is. For me, in this example that I kicked off this podcast with, I'm going to try less coffee, but I'm also going to coach myself harder on the thoughts that I'm having so that I feel safe enough, good enough, creative enough, confident, whatever it is. And I'll say too, especially as full-time entrepreneurs, time doesn't tend to be something we're lacking unless we're a mom, a caregiver, have something going on in our lives. Most of the time, just generally speaking, we have a lot of time in our hands. And it's not about learning to manage it better. It's about there's something going on in our brains that's telling us that we're not enough, or that's causing us to think that we can't succeed, that's having us pull back rather than lean in. With this client, as I was saying, she procrastinates and avoids, and it causes the inconsistency. When we actually dug into her thoughts around executing things, whether it be marketing or business, creating content, selling, starting new projects, working out, whatever, she has the thought, well, rather than the thought, she has this identity of, I'm not a disciplined person. That is the actual thing causing the inconsistency. It's actually the root of the problem. She doesn't see herself as someone who can execute, who's someone who is disciplined, who's someone who can succeed. That's what's going on here. She's constantly convincing herself she's not a person who can do this. So she, of course, feels a lot of shame and lack around herself. She has this narrative that she's inherently flawed because she just, quote unquote, isn't disciplined. That's going to produce the shame. And when you feel shame for not being enough at, again, I'll just name whatever. You're not consistent enough. You're not smart enough. You're not charismatic enough. You're not selling enough. You're not marketing enough, whatever it is. When you feel that shame for not being enough, what do you think that does? It does not make anyone that I know want to dive headfirst into that action, into the execution, into doing with confidence. If anything, you might dive into doing it, but you're going to do it from a place of I'm not enough. Most people, 95% of people, are actually going to think they've already failed before they even start, that they don't have what it takes to succeed because they're identifying with not enough. And so they pull back, which causes that inconsistency, which causes the lack of success that we're really, really wanting. So I want to make this so clear. The problem of why you aren't where you want to be, or why you're not further, of why you haven't made more money, hit your goals, is not because you're inconsistent. It is not because you're lacking in a single thing. It's the thoughts that you're having about yourself, your own sense of perceived lack. And so I want to show you an example of where inconsistency is really not a problem. But first, taking a quick break so that you can hear from my clients. I love what I've created with my clients and what they've been able to do from our coaching, but I don't want you to just take my word for it. Here's what some of my clients have had to say while working together.
I'm literally speechless at how amazing this community is, and it's only month one. Like, I cannot wait to spend the next 5 months getting to know these women and truly building friendships that I am just so excited for. And so the Unlimited community is by far one of my favorite things about the program that I didn't even think I was going to utilize that much in the beginning. And now it is what I look forward to the most inside of the program. It truly is. I absolutely adore the community, and Mackenzie has a way of calling in people who are so different, have such different talents and backgrounds and businesses, and yet still having a common thread that ties them all together. And I cannot be more grateful for the women that I've met inside this program.
Okay, we're back. So the example that I want to give you is with me working out. And I'll preface this too, take it with a grain of salt. Just take the lesson. So with consistency or perceived lack, I would say I like working out a lot. It's a big source of mental stability for me. It really helps me regulate my energy, my nervous system, and just honestly makes me a better person. It makes me a better person to be around. I liked it so much, especially when I was younger, that at 19, I became a personal trainer. So 7 years now, yes, 7 years, 7 years being qualified as a personal trainer, and I'm still not consistent in the gym. I was at one point in time, I'll say that. But here's the thing with consistency or perceived lack of something about ourselves, it is totally, totally subjective. What I consider to be inconsistent might be someone else's consistent. But as someone, for example, qualified to be a personal trainer, whose entire personality would be a ray of sunshine if I would just go more often, you'd think I'd be more consistent. So even just going, okay, here's the thing. Going through the rest of this podcast, I want you to see that the definition of enough, consistent enough, good enough at marketing, smart enough, pretty enough, charismatic enough, whatever, is a totally subjective construct. I, in thinking through this podcast, looked up how often I went to the gym, at least at the time that I had this idea. I think it actually might be less now. But I looked at how often I went to the gym on my gym's app. That'll tell me how often I'm going. I averaged going to the gym 10 times a month, which is about 2.5 times per week. Now, since everything is just a subjective construct, 10 times a month might be nothing to you. 2.5 times a week might be nothing to you, or it might be 10 more times than you've gone this year. It doesn't matter. It's just what we're using as an example. To give you context for why my brain might say you're not consistent anymore is because back when I was basically summers in college, between years in college, I was really consistent. I would go 6 to 10 times per week. And I'd basically go 2 times per day a lot of the time. And a lot of it was because I was living in a city where I had no friends. I didn't know anyone. It was very temporary. It was just me, my car, and the gym. And so that's why it happened. And I also just wanted to get really good at personal training. So that's why that was happening. Anyway, nowadays, what is far more common is I have this 6-week program. I actually think it's 8 weeks. This 8-week program that I like. But because, well, here's what I'll say. You know, I was going to say I don't have time to make my own programs, but as a full-time entrepreneur, I have plenty of time to make my own programs. I choose not to make my own programs because I'd rather spend the time running a $500,000 business, 20 plus clients, and living my life. I got things to do other than create my own programs, right? So I have this 8-week program that I've done many, many, many times. And not once have I ever gotten through the full 8 weeks. I recently even shortened the program from 5 days a week to 3 days a week because it has that option on the app. And I still don't even hit the 3 days a week a lot of the times. So what this looks like for me is 3 weeks on, a week off at the gym. Start week 4 of the program again, take 2 weeks off, complete that, go back and redo that week anyway. It's a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll think, let's go do this leg workout that definitely takes 45 minutes when I have approximately 19 minutes because heaven forbid I plan my day well. And I just never finish that workout. That happens all of the time. I could not tell you what week 8 of that program looks like. I've never gotten there. I have never gotten into week 8 of that program. The one thing that I can say I do consistently do throughout all of that time is eat popcorn. I eat popcorn almost every night. Snacking is something I'm very skilled and consistent at. Again, consistency, subjectively, the subjective definition of whatever consistency is or enough is for you or skilled enough or anything. For me, consistency doesn't work. I'd have no results if I expected myself to be consistent and if I shamed myself for not being more consistent. I really want you to sit with that. If I shamed myself for not being enough at something, good enough, skilled enough, if I didn't do this fast enough, I should be further, any variety of shaming myself for who I am not being enough, it is the only reason why I wouldn't succeed. It's the only reason why I wouldn't have what I want. And so if I shamed myself, which occasionally I will admit, I do fall into being hard on myself. I wouldn't say I go so far as shame, but being really hard on myself for not going to the gym more, it only makes me go to the gym less. I've learned that the hard way over the years. And so I just am okay that I'm an inconsistent person. I'm okay with wherever skill level I'm at, whatever, with marketing, with selling, with showing up, with eating right, with working out, whatever it is. I have to love where I'm at because it's the only way for me to keep going. It's the only way for me to be effective, because the opposite of feeling enough and not loving where I am and shaming where I am will only have me pull back. It'll only make me feel bad, and you're never going to get the same potency, the same magnitude of results that you want when that is the attitude that you're taking towards yourself. Some mornings, if we go back to this example with consistency, some mornings I hit my computer immediately, always hitting that coffee first, which we're going to pull back from work, and then don't make it to the gym because all of a sudden it's time for client calls. Or some mornings I've got the best morning routine in the world. Actually, recently I have the best morning routine in the world. I love it. I absolutely adore it. And so maybe I'll do an episode on that a different time. But some mornings I will just not plan well and don't get to work out at all. The other day I went to the gym for 14 minutes. That's all I had time for. I walked to the gym, had 14 minutes on the bike, walked home. That's all I had time. But I still have incredible results. I joke about this on with my friends on Instagram sometimes, but I get offered a job at a gym, every gym that I walk in, because it looks like I know what I'm doing, which partially actually is just confidence. And we're going to be talking about that, I think, on the next episode it is. But it's also because I still get the results I'm wanting in terms of my body, right? And again, I promise you, I'm not genetically predispositioned to be small. So I just want to say inconsistency works. With your business, it works. With your body, it works. With your diet, it can work. But there is a catch with all of this. All of this. I really want you to understand this. I do inconsistency. I am inconsistent consistently without shaming myself for the said inconsistency. So let me say it again. I am inconsistent all of the time. But the only reason that it still works with the gym, with dieting, with my business, with anything is because I don't shame myself for it. So I'm inconsistent and I just keep going. I just keep moving forward. But if you shame yourself for not being enough, you'll just pull back and make the gap even wider. To not shame yourself for this is a skill in itself that I did not consistently nail on my way to mastering it. So, like I said earlier, inconsistency is truly only a problem if you're using it as a tool to shame yourself. And the real takeaway that I want everyone to have from this is nothing about you is a problem. Nothing about you is lacking, whether it's, a lack of experience, a lack of education, looks, perfection, charisma, confidence, skills. No part of you is not enough, because not enough is just a construct. That it's a subjective definition. You've just decided what quote unquote not enough is and then used it to shame yourself. And you can also make new decisions that everything about you is great. Everything about you is what you'll need to succeed. Everything about you is perfectly enough and more than enough as is to get where you want to go. You can have those thoughts too. So how do you fix this? You fix in like quote unquote fix, which let me say, actually, it doesn't need to be fixed, but you heal this rather by healing your relationship with yourself, by finding the thoughts that you're having that are producing the feelings of shame and choose more supportive thoughts. The thing and the skill that you'll really need to change your thoughts is the skill of curiosity. So keep being curious. Whenever your brain says, I'm not disciplined, ask it why. Look for answers like, oh, I think I'm not disciplined, and then ask why. Or I'm really afraid if I try, I'll fail, right? Just keep getting curious. Curiosity is almost how all of my thought problems are solved. So it might be like, okay, why do I think I'm not a disciplined person? Where did this come from? What am I afraid failing will mean about me? Is that actually true? Oh, okay, so this is actually me not trusting myself to get something done without shaming myself. Why? Oh, because XYZ, I grew up like this, right? It's just getting really curious, because once you can get curious, you can also understand yourself better, which is the basis of compassion that you'll need to build confidence. What I really want you to take away from this is that the idea of not enough, consistent enough, whatever enough, good enough, smart enough, pretty enough is just a construct. It's just subjective. It's just a thought that you have been having about yourself for quite some time. But you can choose new thoughts. I don't care if you've thought them your whole life. I don't care if you've grown up with them. They are things that are changeable. And such a big reason why my clients have the success they do is because they're able to change the thoughts about themselves. I'm thinking of one client in particular, actually, right in this minute, is that when she came to me, I remember she cried on her sales call, and she was just so broken about around the idea that she was too emotional, too creative, too many big emotions, too soft, really, too feminine, too all of these things to succeed as an entrepreneur. And she was convinced of them, and they produced so much shame. So whenever she was having an emotion, she would also then she'd tack on shame on top of it, because then as soon as she was having this big emotion, she also made it mean, and this is why we'll not succeed. So then we had a big emotion and we had shame, which is just two big emotions on top of each other. And when she came in to Unlimited, she was making, I'm trying to think. I think she was making around $500 a month. 3 months in Unlimited, she's made over $20,000. And when I asked her, I was like, why don't you tell everyone else why you think this is that you've been able to more than 10x your income? And she's actually projected to make $100K this year. And she's got a business where it's a little easier to project. $100K, from $500 a month to $100K. I asked her, why don't you tell everyone what you think it is that did this? She said, I just changed my thoughts about myself. That's what we've been doing in here, just changing the thoughts that I have around myself. And that's such an important skill in building confidence and seeing yourself as more than enough in the exact way that you'll get unrealistic success. So if you haven't already, join the free training that I'm having on March 7th. And so what I am teaching is the exact process of what I use with my clients inside of Unlimited that works like a charm to get every single 100% of women inside a minimum of 25% emotionally and financially richer. And so this process in the 3 skills for unrealistic success that I'm teaching is how so many of my clients not only become 25% richer, that's just the beginning. They go on to often double, triple, quadruple, all the way up to 13x their incomes. Many of them actually double their lifetime sales just in the 6 months of Unlimited, whether they were at 20K, 50K, or more than that. Right? They've done incredible things. They surpassed 6 figures, surpassed multiple 6 figures, even when they didn't think they could do it. And it's because of the process that I'm giving away for free in this training. So what we're specifically going to be covering even more to make this even better, sweeten the pot for you guys, is we're going to be showing you I can't even stress this enough, the number one thing that holds women back from confidence. 99% of the women I work with have this mindset going on, and no one's ever told them this switch. Just hearing this alone is worth signing up for this webinar. So we're covering that. We're covering my process. We're covering the 3 skills. And in this, we are going to help you stop comparing, stop doubting, and start creating this unrealistic success. All of this is baked into the webinar itself. It is so valuable. It's the best thing that I've ever created, especially for free. And I'm just so excited to have you guys join. So if you haven't already, you can look in the show notes of the podcast, the show notes of the YouTube. You can also go on my Instagram at MackenzieCo, MakenZieco, to click the link and sign up. Thank you for listening. I'm so glad to have you guys here on the podcast, on YouTube, and come talk to me on Instagram. Come reach out if you have any questions about this podcast, anything that came up for you, and I'm more than happy to chat about it. Okay? Thanks for listening. Hey, I'd love for you to come to my upcoming free training, Unshakable Confidence, on March 7th. I'll be teaching you the top 3 skills that my clients use to create unrealistic success. The process that I'm teaching on this free training is exactly how my clients have been able to quadruple their incomes, move abroad, and create such richer lives. After, the doors to my group program, Unlimited, will be opening. This is for female founders who want to build audacious self-belief and the skills to create 100K on repeat through confident marketing. The program is 6 months of weekly coaching, 30 plus bite-sized video curriculum, community support, the best community in the world, and the Richer Project, where we get you a minimum of 25% emotionally and financially richer. 100% of our clients succeed. The doors open on March 7th and are only open until March 20th. So mark your calendars because we sell out fast. Those who join and either buy direct or book a sales call before March 10th will receive a 4-hour bonus VIP day with me. Check the episode info for the links.